All right, guys, today we're going to talk about probably one of the most underrated brands in Japan that probably 80% of the people in the fishing community, maybe 90%, haven't ever heard of, or probably never even seen on a shelf. And we're going to talk about it in the context of actually meeting with one of the faster growing American brands. And that brand in Japan is Bottomup. Okay? Bottomup is the brand from Japan. And the American brand we're going to talk about that's really the last couple years with the rise of strolling, hover strolling probably, but there's got a lot more things going on with their jigs, is core tackle. Okay? So I did a video a few weeks back. I'm going to link it on this video as well. It'll be right up here on the video of terminal tackle for hover rigs. And I didn't have I just didn't have the core tackle with me when I did that video, right? And so it kind of left some people with the impression that I wasn't including core tackle, even though I mentioned it in the video. But I wasn't really giving core tackle the credit that it deserved, because it is an outstanding terminal tackle hover rig. And so, lo and behold, you get these things, you get packages all the time, and I ended up getting a bunch of core tackle sent to me. This is what happens when you're on YouTube, because people are really passionate about brands, really passionate about stuff, and it's what's really awesome about the community. And so I had an opportunity. I mean, I obviously have had core tackle in my tackle box before, and I've used it, but I've never really talked much about core tackle, and I certainly have never really done a video really like breaking down Bottomup. Okay. It's just not one of those brands that people are very, very familiar with. Everybody knows Mega Bass and Jackal and Depths, and then the swim bait crazes coming at them from Gancraft and all the stuff that makes its way to Japan. But a lot of the stuff doesn't really make it. It may make it into the specialty shops. So in terms of the tackle shop and opening a tackle shop and all that stuff and trying to find like brands that aren't like everywhere, right? That just aren't. You can go in any store and get them. Right? That's really not the direction that I want to go. That I kind of see things going. I see things more of, being educated, being able to educate people, on how to use these baits, what they are, and all that stuff, not just be a grab and go kind of shop, right? And so I've been really diving in the last year in a lot of JDM baits, if you haven't noticed on the channel. Because I just think a lot of their products are superior to a lot of other products in the world, and they're just really passionate about fishing. And there are a lot of that community is very interconnected. A lot of the brands work together. A lot of the guys came from other businesses. You know what I'm saying, in the Japanese market, and so there are a lot of tentacles there in terms of the connectivity there. But Bottomup is probably one of my I think it's the most underrated brand in Japan. It's one of my favorite, just because they produce baits that really fit my niche in terms of how I like to fish. And being bipolar, living where I live, I go west and it's smallmouth. I go east and it's largemouth bass and snakehead, right? So it's like I'm kind of like right in that region. I don't know what it's like for you guys, but for me, I go north to PA, it's smallmouth. West, Maryland, Virginia, it's smallmouth. East, it's snakehead, and obviously we got the tidal Potomac, and we've got the upper bay for largemouth bass. So finding those brands that kind of fit that niche of being able to be diverse in that dynamic is important for me, because I want to have baits in my tackle box that I can use a number of different ways. Core tackle kind of fits that too as well, because of a lot of the new kind of innovative things they're doing, as offshoots to the hover stroll, right? The hover rig. Just some different like adaptations and different ways. Now that we know that like capitalizing on that wobble and that action, horizontal action versus vertical action in the water column has become really effective in the last few years. And so now they've transitioned, that's where Bottomup comes in, because Bottomup has a bunch of soft plastics that kind of fit that style, even if they weren't intentionally like, developed for that presentation. They work for that presentation. And so they've got a number of baits in their lineup that kind of fit that category of, okay, small little bait fish. So if I'm going north to the Susquehanna River or the Allegheny, or I'm going west, up the Upper Potomac or Virginia and the Shenandoah, or maybe even the New River, I want to go with a smaller size bait fish, right? But I still want it to have incredible action, okay? Because that's really what happens. You've seen my videos, short videos on the channel. I always try to do a video every time I go out of whatever bait fish that I see. And so you can get an idea how those bait fish move in the water, okay? Because obviously they stay in packs, right? And so it's like, and then the bass come up and just slam it. And so but how are the bait fish moving in the water? And what is the real, compared to when you're looking at baits in the water? Like, who's capturing that movement, okay, in the tail that is close to reality in real nature, what it is. So check out those short videos on my channel for the bait fish. Because a lot of the bait fish are different in terms of how they do. But the size range here, this is a bottom-up fish. This is a 3.5 inch, which is the sweet spot, okay? It's a sweet spot, okay? And I love these because they are so natural, okay? And, a lot of people talk about the fish roller from Raid, phenomenal bait, right? For that strolling aspect. Or the Shakamata shad, which is bigger presentation. More of a thick, different kind of fluke style action, on a, say for a core tackle hover stroke, right? Hover rig, okay? But what I really like about these, and I really like about core tackle, which is why this is kind of a really perfect union, is core tackle has a 1/16 1/0, okay? This is a 1/16 1/0, all right? So 1/16, okay? Basically, it's the hook, okay? So it's a 1/0 hook. Weighted a little bit, perfect matchup for this right here, okay? And that's what I really like about core tackle now is a lot of the sizes, not just the weight sizes, the 16ths and the 8ths and the 3/16ths and stuff like that for smallmouth, but also the fact that they're using 1/0, 2/0, and going up in terms of the hook. Because a lot of times I opted not for the core tackle 2 years ago or so, because for the most part, the only thing that would be available, at the shop, at local tackle shops or whatever, would be a 4/0, okay? So I don't want to use 4/0s when I'm fishing for smallmouth, okay? That's just my personal preference, all right? Now, tidal Potomac, largemouth bass, a little bit different. Getting through the grass, all that, a little bit different. You may want a bigger hook and a little bit more weight to it, right? That's what I like about these unions of sorts, okay? So when I'm doing the inland fisheries, I'm really love the fish. This is a 3.5. Now, when I'm going tidal, okay, I'm going largemouth fishing, I don't tend to use the fish. I tend to use this for smallmouth in lakes, targeting smallmouth, and in our inland river systems targeting smallmouth, okay? Again, with core tackle, again, this is a 1/0, okay? And that was 1/16 again, okay? Perfect match. You can pair this up with so many of your 2.7s, 2.8s, 3.3s, 3.5s, your 3.3 Kitech. It's probably the #1 seller at most tackle shops for any JDM bait, maybe outside of Megabass. It's awesome. We don't want to have a massive amount of weight, but you just want a little bit of weight. Perfect. That's the fish. Now, the tidal Potomac, and most people are going to be familiar with the daddy, okay? Most people are going to be familiar with the frog. If you talk about Bottomup, most people are familiar with the frog daddy, okay? When you talk about Bottomup, all right? They're coming out with a magnum size coming up. Should be available late fall. And that's a massive frog, okay? But a lot of people, when they talk about bottoms up, usually it's in the context of this frog, okay, because it is so crazy and unique. And there are some guys, that fish this frog on the tidal Potomac with massive success, when they're throwing a frog. And so it's just one of those that's kind of flown under the radar for the mainstream, but a lot of people that are in the know, when they think of Bottoms Up, they think the Frog Daddy, okay? So I just want to throw that out there. Not a big frog guy, to be honest, but that is a phenomenal frog bait. And so if I'm gonna throw a frog, I got a couple coloration patterns from Frog Daddy. Just easy. It's just one of the easier ones to do. If you're real like me, you're not throwing the frog all the time. It's not a go-to presentation for you. You'd rather throw the jig, or those kind of things. But when that bite gets on, and you want to have 2 or 3 kind of in your bag or in your tackle box, that Frog Daddy is one of them. Okay, that you want to have. I mean, I know a lot of people go for Spro and Mega Bass and some other frogs out there. But like I said, I just like brands that kind of offer me a little bit of variety in terms of that. So, Tidal Potomac, the one they have 3 options. Okay, if you can find the 5.5, 5.5 is harder to find in North America. But you can find the 4.2 and 3.3. 3.5 and 4.2, I think. And that is the Volup Swimmer. Okay? So this one, for me, it's not that I haven't thrown it on my inland rivers. It's just a little bit, I think, at 4.2, it's just right on that edge of being a little bit too big for my inland fisheries when I'm targeting smallmouth, okay? But on the tidal Potomac, it's perfect. 4 to 5.5, that's your sweet spot, because the bait fish are just bigger. There's a whole bunch of different bait fish, in the tidal Potomac and Upper Bay, and also the James River, okay, below the fall line in Richmond, all the way running out down to the ocean, okay? So the bait fish are just a little bit bigger. So this is really, really one that it fascinates me that doesn't get as much coverage or attention, and it could just be because it's only maybe in a handful of JDM specialty shops across the country, okay? But this is one of the best baits that you can throw paired with core tackle, in my opinion. And it's a little bit different than the streamlined baits that you're seeing coming out now for that mid-strolling, okay? Because it's got that head in the front for a little bit more water displacement, okay, as it's coming through. But then it goes to that horizontal line, okay, in the water. So when you watch a video, okay, of this in the water, or you get it in the water at your boat and you just want to see before you start casting it, what's the action really, really like? It is a horizontal action, okay, in terms of that roll, all right? And it rolls just like what you're going to see in the baitfish videos, okay, in terms of that, in terms of how it moves through the water. And this, whereas a lot of like paddle tail or boot tail, whatever your poison is in terms of you characterize of that, a lot of them will do like this a lot of times because of the weighted aspect on it. So they'll go up and down. But the ones that tend to be a lot more effective are the ones that are moving side to side, okay? They're moving like this. So your tail's moving like this, not like this, okay? Now, originally the thought process was with the paddle tail, and the original design of the paddle tail is it would do this and displace that water coming through, which would attract, and entice strikes, right? But now what we're finding from thanks to forward-facing sonar and things like that, and that mid-stroll presentation, that it is more of a side-to-side, okay? Like this, than necessarily this, okay? And then when it's rolling, it's doing that. So this is really unique, and part of the reason why I love Bottomup is I really think that they think things really through in the developmental process of their baits, okay? So not only do you have that wobble action, that wob and roll, okay, you also can fish this nose hooked. I've fished it nose hooked, okay, on the Occoquan River, around the docks on the Occoquan River going out to Belmont Bay on the tidal Potomac. Highly effective, okay, nose hooked. okay? Because you can fish this very similar to a fluke, okay? It's got a little bit more body to it than a lot of the other strolling baits like the fish roller. Fish roller's phenomenal, but the fish roller is very light. It really is. This has a thicker body, okay? Has a thicker body. It's got your belly slit, okay, here, but it also has the top split, so you can log that hook right in that spot, okay, every time. All right. So it's great in the grass. Okay, above the grass line, inside, outside grass lines, switching it up. Maybe that chatterbait has just been played too much and that bite has died down on day 2 or day 3. If you're in those kind of tournaments, or here's another thought, guys. The reason why I love this bait, I don't want to give up too much juice, but this is also, if you're in the know, one of the best co-angler baits there is. Okay, if you've ever been in a tournament as a co-angler and your boater is throwing a bladed jig, this is a great option. I mean, you can obviously substitute some other similar baits, but I'm just saying to you, this is a great option to go behind your boater, okay, and throw something different. All right, doesn't have the noise that they're getting conditioned to that stuff, guys. They are, okay. So if you're a co-angler and you want to come behind or be out there in that boat and everybody and his brother is throwing a chatterbait, all kinds of bladed jigs and everything, go stealthy a little bit, okay? And this is one that you definitely want to go with. This is the Volup Swimmer, okay? There's about 30-some. I didn't know this until recently. There's about 30 or 32 colors in this line. It reminds me of Kitech. Okay, Kitech has a massive number of color options in Japan that seem to never come here. Okay, that's going to change. Just letting you know, that's going to change. Okay, and they got about 30, and about a dozen of them you could probably find in the States. So you're going to find the Wakasaki, the smelt, the stealthfish, those kind of colors, which are pretty good natural colors. Like mirror Tennessee shad, they mirror the gizzard shad, they mirror the natural blue smoke shad, those kinds of things. But again, it just has that. Now it also has that little up front, which is I like that. I didn't realize this really for after like 2 or 3 months of fishing with this. I didn't really you can't tell really, because you can't even see that really, on the soft plastic in the head. But there's a little rib there, okay? It's just in the chin, just under the chin. And what that does is you can run that hook through and then bury that in there, and that hook stays in there. That, right coming out of that, the eyelet coming right out, and it just stays there, which is, and again, that's what it was, and like looking at it and going, why is that such a consistent, like I've had baits, Kitechs and other baits that are basically paddle tail swim baits, that after a while they're moving on the hook or whatever, and you've gotten a bunch of smallmouth have crushed on it, and the bait's all mangled up and all that. We've all been there, right? The Z-Man product sometimes just there's something about it that just gets thin or whatever, I don't know. But that little thing right there, it's amazing with just a little bit keeps it in there. And so it's really great. And like I said, so it's just really thought through here. And again, in this one, like I said before, going out in the title, I can go with the 4-rod, okay? A lot more weight, especially if I'm in the channel. A lot of people don't talk about the channel. I would say this, though, about tournaments sometimes. Tournaments, Major League Fishing, Bassmaster, things like that, they often tend to skew people on where to go and find fish. If you're just not in the tournament and you're out, and you don't have to catch 20 pounds, 18 pounds or whatever, and that's not your mindset. Your mindset is just to go out and catch fish. It amazes me how many, with the exception of the rise of forward-facing sonar, which has actually allowed us to find fish that were never being caught before on the tidal Potomac, and that's in the channel, okay? That's out, all right? Not in the creeks, okay? In the main river, all right? So many times over the last 20 years, you've heard about Mattawoman, you've heard about Aquia, you've heard about Powell's Creek, you've heard about all the creeks. Part of that is the time in which tournaments get scheduled to come to the Potomac River in the first place. Usually it's the summer, okay, or right at post-spawn, right after spawn, okay. But if you live here and you know there's a significant main channel bite, grass in the main channel, okay, that a lot of people just don't like until forward-facing sonar came along because it's deeper water. Has really opened up the door to a lot of people. If you talk to some guides and people like, wow, like that's just an added thing. If the bite in the creeks isn't really on, moving out to deeper water, that's where that mid-strolling and that hover rig and those presentations have really, really caught fire in the last few years. And so it's really opened up that window of really fish that were never being targeted in my opinion, in years past, that now you can target, okay? Especially with something like this, with a 2-aught, I mean, this thing, even a 4-aught, okay? Much, much bigger, okay? But this 4.2 to 5.5, if you can find those 5.5s, snag them up, let me know. I mean, if you find a spot here in the country, maybe out west or up in the north, Midwest, that have got the 5.5, definitely shoot me a message, let me know, and snag them, because you just don't see them that often, coming into North America, but the 4.2 and the 3 and the 3 to 4.2, that's a sweet spot. So you're definitely, you'll definitely find those readily available. Now another one that I want to talk about, because I brought up the Potomac, right? Tidal Potomac, crab, right? Okay, like craw, crayfish, crab, all that stuff is a significant forage species, and Bottomup's got you covered with that as well. They got various sizes in the Bull's Hog. They got a baby version, which is sick for smallmouth. I'm going to tell you, if you're fishing Susquehanna, Upper Potomac, James River, Shenandoah, that one, the baby Bull's Hog is freaking sick, okay? And then this is the 3-inch, all right? They got a number of colors, about 8 to 10 colors in various sizes. And you can kind of see here what we're talking about, okay? Again, you probably have never heard of this one because you probably heard of the Dewey Beaver, right? You've probably heard now of the Rapala. I think it's the Bronco, right? They're all kind of the same knockoff of the cover crawl, okay, from Jackal, okay? This is what happens when you get on it. And really, the copying is in these appendages right here, okay, and how they work in the water, all right? Again, this isn't one that gets talked about a lot, right? More people are talking about the OSP, okay, or now the Rapala. But again, this one has been a catcher, okay? It's a little bit different. Not much, just slightly different than those. They're all pretty much relatively the same, okay? That's just how it works, okay, in the industry. But it's really a streamlined, you can see that, really a streamlined look, okay? And these are weighted. These are what I mean by weighted is a lot more plastic in these actual appendages than some of the other baits that you might be used to. And so that's effective in the water column, okay, and how the action of this, if you're bouncing this off the bottom, up and off the bottom, or maybe you want to swim it, or maybe you want to use it as a trailer, okay? And so I've been playing around with this, not only with, okay, the weedless, all right, in the shallows, okay? Probably not meant for that. But I've been playing around with it where the crawl live, okay, and slowly just moving that, okay, on the bottom. And I've been doing it close to grass, okay? If you check out my channel, the short video of the crawl that I came across working its way along the outside grass on the river, okay? And basically it was poaching bait fish. It was hovering inside the grass, okay? And then would pop out and grab fry. It was freaking unbelievable to catch that video, okay? It's on my shorts. You can find it on my channel. And you'll know what I'm talking about. And seeing that, how that crawl, and watching that crawl for 10 minutes, okay? do what it did and watch the other crawl in that same grassy area go out, go in, go out, come back in, go out, come back in, okay? And they were poaching freaking fry and bait fish, right? And it got me thinking, why am I not working this along that grass line, right? Because the larger bass have to know that the crawl are there, right? Like, it's just in the ecosystem. And sure enough, that's where you get your strikes. Work it right along that grass line. If you're inland fishery, you've got grass that comes out. Susquehanna, a lot of the grass is right in the middle of the river, okay? And you can work it right on the outsides, in and around there. And you can always pull up in those spots, especially you kayak guys. You can always pull up in those spots and like just sit there for a minute and then look down and you'll start to see the crawl, okay? And that's what you're looking for, that behavior that you can leverage to get good strikes, and this is one. Again, you light, or you can go to, the normal hover rig. If you want to put this on a normal hover rig, I've used this on a drop zone Jika rig. This is awesome on a Jika rig to drop shot, okay? Places like Smith Mountain Lake, Lake Anna, places like that where I live, when you're lake fishing, things like that. You certainly can do it in a river, but a lot of times, though, our inland fisheries in our region are 3 feet and under. So you're probably not drop shotting, right? And so you want to find other presentations, and this actually really, really works effectively, okay? That allow you to kind of like get that bite on, right? Whereas when you go out and you've got deeper water, you're in a lake, with drop-offs or, whatever, you can use that Jika rig. Neko rig, Jika rig, whatever, and this is another one that's just great colors. Like I said, 6 or 8 colors probably available in North America. I'm gonna try and get in a lot of different coloration patterns that probably are already being sold in North America. 7 count, 7 to a pack for the Bull's Hog. Okay. 5 to a pack for the Volup Swimmer. Okay. And 6 to a count for the Frisch. And we're going to keep these under like $8, $8.99, $8.99, $7.99, $8.99, reasonably priced, as opposed to like that, upwards of $10 to $12.99. I've seen some in this thing $14.99 at some places. There can be there'll be times when this one is in demand. I've seen it, on eBay for like $19.99, $24.99, because there are colors that are extremely popular that get snagged up. So just check out your local tackle shop, that sells JDM baits. They don't have bottoms up. Hey, man, drop the request to them. Ask them if they can get bottoms up, if it's available for them to stock it, because bottoms up is I believe it is the most underrated for soft plastics. I believe it is the most they got great spinner baits, by the way. Just saying, they don't just do soft plastics. They do a lot of other stuff. But what they do great, okay? Less sometimes is more, in my opinion. What they do great. I focus on the soft plastics for my style, but I also have a couple of their a couple of their spinner baits. They're sick, okay? Again, harder to find, okay? Online, you might be able to get them, but like hard to find. Spinnerbait is such a crazy, intense, competitive category. It's harder to find them in the tackle shops and the stores, and I don't think Bass Pro sells them. I definitely know Dick's doesn't sell them. I don't think Shell sells them. Maybe Academy. I don't really sure about what they've done a little shift in their inventory this last year. Not really sure. If they've kind of moved away from some of the Japanese brands. I don't kind of know what's going on there. But let me know. Let me know, like in your part of the country, if you're seeing this video, or if you live here in my region, if you're starting to see. These two are definitely 2 brands that work really great together. When you can find that terminal tackle with the right kind, where the terminal tackle doesn't beat up your soft plastic, doesn't rip it to shreds, right? There's a great pairing or relationship. Core tackle from here in the States, and then Volup Swimmer, any of the bottoms up from Japan. Appreciate any feedback you guys got. Any other ones you want me to... Any other JDM baits you'd like me to start to begin to kind of introduce, or get my opinion on, or whatever, hit me up, comment, shoot me a message. That's where we're at today. Again, core tackle, Bottomup. Check them out. One of the most underrated, in my opinion, JDM, definitely soft plastics on the market today. See if you can't snag some up. All right, guys.